Good morning, everyone. Morning in Canada. Okay, Lynn and I have had roughly a week of rest here. Sorry guys, no videos. But we've had time to recap our build and various aspects of it. But today I want to talk about our hiring process again. Because I do like, as a former engineer, you recap all this stuff later on, and with a clearer mind and less noise around you. Let go of the crap that might have happened and all of that, and really have a good reflection on what happened during your build. For us, it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But let's dig into it. Just popping over to our neighborhood park. But what I wanted to do a further reflection on here is our crew. And, you know, did we make a mistake? And the answer is no, not for the first build. It was wonderful. You know, again, upon reflection and putting, you know, the really high highs and the really low lows aside, of course, the high highs will, you know, stick with us forever. Joseph being goofy and dancing, and Lyndon doing cooking on Saturday, and, you know, stuff like that, where, you know, we allowed the guys a little bit more leeway and fun in their day. But let's just talk a little bit more about, you know, how it went down. And I think it's important to do this because I've had more than my share of comments, good, bad, and ugly. Okay, guys, and each of us has our experience, and we feed off of our experience. I do understand that. But there is a level of responsibility. Let me start there, in that when Lynn and I started this whole process of getting together, I was dismayed by the fact that taxis will jump the queue just to get to me. And quickly I discovered that if my responsibility to society is to not allow that to happen. I've never been a fan of that kind of BS, that monarchy style of you know, thinking, right? That if we allowed that type of thing to happen, all that does is drive the rates up. And the next time somebody wants to get a taxi, they don't pick up the locals, you know. So, I mean, that's just one little tiny example of, you know, what Lynn and I's character. We've even had points where we've said, pull over, we're getting out. You know, we've been picked up on the street, and you know, the guy just says, please add another 100 for my trip. And it's like, go away, you know. Now, I come from a tipping society. Okay, so do take that in context. I get a good ride, all of that type of thing. I don't get a lot of BS and pushback. Then, yeah, you know, I tip. I'm still of a tipping culture. But what has that got to do with the build? Well, and again, this is upon reflection, guys. So put aside the fact that our number one goal in this whole thing, besides building a house, was to have fun with this. Nothing worse than having a nightmare situation happen with building your house and tainting your overall feeling of your house, your neighborhood, because you have to live with those memories. But how would we do it differently now? Well, after experiencing crews in the Philippines, this is how I think we would lay it out. Our labor, we would pay well. Well, we would pay well across the board. But what we would accept is the fact that the builders of the Philippines are rooted in their ways. And because we are doing different techniques, new products that are available in the Philippines, we can't expect that the locals are going to want to pick up on that because, again, the ratio of jobs just aren't there. Out of these 6, and I'm actually going to call it 7 Massoons, we didn't know one guy was a Massoon until late in the game, and then we upped his rate. And again, this goes to their character guys. If they feel that they've been hired as laborers, they don't even share their own skills, you know, and we didn't find out until later, and we just said, show us more of your skills. Boom, hey, dude, this is what you're going to get paid now. Really, sir? Yes. But they're just not used to it, guys. You got to remember, and I think I've mentioned this in more than a few of my videos, some of the damage has been done by the locals to these guys and these various types of workers. I mentioned clearly that our Massoon group, they were getting paid $200 to build a local fellow's house. And he didn't care. Apparently he was a yeller and a screamer and all of that type of thing. Constantly firing them and then hiring new crews and then hiring them back and all that stuff. So, you know, that's just, I guess, how it is. But what would we do different? Well, here's the crux. Labor is labor, and, you know, you can throw them here and throw them there and get them to do, you know, what you need done, right? Now, I talked before about skilled labor and then Massoon labor. And right now, in my mind of minds, they're the same. Okay? I think where we would go differently here is we felt that 3 Massoon and 3 helpers was the way to go. And we made a commitment to those helpers to try and get them more education, more learning on the job. And it was only one of the Massoons. None of the helpers wanted to do it. And so from our perspective, that was a little bit frustrating. Now, in the future, if we do find somebody who does relish the learning, you know, I'm not going to slow down on that. That's been my way my entire life. I've done a lot of mentoring and such here in Canada with younger fellows, you know, trying to learn their way through the trades. I didn't necessarily know the trade. It was more about mindset and ethics on the job site. But where would we change on the Massoon side of things or skilled labor side? I think we would go back to that one Massoon process that is here in the Philippines, just so that you can make one guy responsible for being an extra set of eyes. There's no question that I would not leave the job site as we did. We had very few times we ever did. And the unfortunate part is that even though we were having fun with these guys and such, when we got back, they were not working. They were still, oh, sir, I guess we all ran over. No. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 guys at any given point don't just decide that they all missed the clock. But further to that, as an example of running through our house, we would have hired the Massoons to put up the pillars and the beams, assess the crew as we go. We would, at that stage before pouring the slab, because we would definitely do AAC again, and AAC is required to go on a slab, guys. Please don't follow. There's other guys out there putting it straight on the tie beams. Wrong answer. That is not what you do. We are following Western Building Code on this, and AAC goes on a slab. Where we would go from there is we would bring in the tiler next, believe it or not. And we would make sure that if he's got somebody that he feels can do a proper leveling of the floor, ours was pretty darn good, guys. I mean, over the whole thing, it wasn't out very much. But they did a poor job on the screeding, and of course, we didn't have a bull float, so I would get one. But they're not familiar with bull float. So again, you know, we'd have to go through the training process, which for me as a bull float, I'd have to practice that myself too. And where would I practice it? Probably on a driveway section and go from there. They are used to doing small sections. So they're used to doing maybe a 5 by 5 section, 5 by 5 meter section, because they're used to all the walls already being up. They're not used to doing what Ernest is going to go through soon, and that is a big monopore. Now in his case, he's going to do a monopore that includes the footings, so it's going to all be one connected big block. Unless things change, Ernest, let me know. Then we would move on from those laborers, because our next step would be to get the roof on. And if we're doing a single story. So if we're doing a single story, the roof has got to get on next, because you've got to start protecting these workers. You got to get them out of the heat. You got to get them out of the heat. It's very, very important. If you expect these guys to work like they're in Canada and, you know, pound away under that kind of heat, give your head a shake. You know, I'm sorry, but, you know, you just got to give your head a shake and understand the heat ramifications here. A lot of Westerners, they bring our prejudices or our skills from another country, and we expect them to be able to pony up. That's just not how it is, okay? I challenge any one of you guys to go sit, if you're a construction guy, go sit on an accounting desk and pitter-patter get at her. Just not going to happen. So I think we would look for the skill sets as we go through. And like our tilers, we'd have to accept the fact that, you know, whether we're using an adhesive or using concrete for the tiles, retraining is going to be required if you're going to do adhesive. I just watched a Filipino retiring in the Philippines, Filipino nurse retiring in the Philippines, and you know, I'm looking at her tiles going down, and again, they're doing that thick layer underneath the tile, and that's just not how it goes down, guys. Now, maybe her slab wasn't level, you know, all sorts of different things that could be coming into play, and you know, I didn't have time right now to go back and review that. But point being is, if you're going to have a you know, a large gap where you're going to have to fill underneath, re-level the floor before you start your tiling, or give up on the expensive adhesive and just stay with the old style concreting. Okay, it's just not worth all that effort, guys. They can't groove it properly, and you know, they say they did, and I kept showing them you're not doing it right. It just, some things you just can't get through. People have their techniques. You know, just like I have my editing technique on my vlogs, and like playing with Canva and stuff like that. Others don't. You know, they just take it straight off their phone, boom, up it loads. You know, so everybody has a little bit different techniques. But again, I think that's where we would change up. And I think Lynn is right. We would do things like pour the tie beams and pour the pillars, and then just let it cure and take off for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever. You know, allow it to have a good solid cure time. And then, you know, why hire your masseuse to take the bracing off? Just use your general labor to have that all removed. We would still do a lot of techniques like bringing screws and, you know, that type of thing to the Philippines. I would move off of Robertson and onto Torx, if I can find a good quality Torx screw here, Torx deck screw here, to build the forms and such. The other thing is, for us, because we look like we might do a you know, mini apartment, all studios types. If we can lock that land in June, then, you know, that's what we would do. Now at that point, then we're going to probably make some formal forms, make them out of metal or something that can break apart easily but not deteriorate. And then that way we'll just pour, you know, 2 pillars, 2 pillars, 2 pillars, 2 pillars. I don't think we'll ever do a hollow block footing again. We'll just do a full pour. I think that would be a lot easier in that you could have your fellow come in, do the bowl floating and stuff all at the same time. Taking advantage of the cement mixer was well worth it, and yep, I will work on my slump level of the concrete before I allow them. We'll just see what they come up with before we do it, and then if adjustments have to be made, we will. And as always, check out the AAC folder for our summary of various things and the various builders, or sorry, AAC products that are out there. And we will keep this going in that folder. If I'm lucky enough, Ernest will send me a few videos and we can upload his build and I can keep my learning happening. Okay guys, yeah, I think those are the adjustments we would do with the second build. Not easy, obviously, if you're new to the area and you're about to build. Locking in on one crew is hard enough. Trying to lock in on multiples. But accept the fact that they are all jack of all trades and masters of none, unfortunately. Later, Gators.